Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Markbooks for Teachers webinar. If you bear with me, I'm going to turn off the video because I know you don't want to see my face the whole time. And he says, right, I'll stop showing the video. I won't unmute myself. I will unmute the session at the end. So if people have some questions at the end of the 30-minute session, I'll stay on board for a few minutes after the end. I do have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm not going to go through the PowerPoint presentation. This will be made available after tomorrow's session. That will be sent out to anybody who's registered. It just notes that you can use after the fact. Right, so let me go, and I'm going instead to log into Edge. He says, I'll just hide that. I'm going to log into Edge. Before I do so, I'm going to be using a demo database. These are not real students. I've set it up so that I can demonstrate a number of aspects. You'll notice by default I have some saved logins and passwords. This can be a security issue for your school or for you. If you're not the only person using the laptop, or if this laptop is not in a secure environment, I would certainly not be having automatic login with automatic remembering password. If you do wish to avail yourself of this, you're going to have to look at your browser and set it up through there. In this case, I'm using Google Chrome. I just go into my settings, I go into advanced settings, and I can have autofill my passwords, so I can automatically set that up. If they are automatically popping up and you don't want to, you can come to this area and deactivate that. Other things I would be doing is I would be setting up Edge as a bookmark. So I've got several ones here. Here's my demo site. I can quickly come into the demo and I'm automatically in that place. It saves you having to type out staff.music, etc. Right, and last part, one that's useful, I have multiple tabs opened of Edge, so I can actually flick between screens. How that is enabled is simply holding the control key down and clicking on the page that you want, and you can multiple, and I'll show you that in several in a minute. Right, first thing we're going to do is going to log into Edge, and I'm logging in as an administrator, and because I'm an administrator, I get to have a number of tabs up on the screen. If I was to log in as a teacher, I would be seeing fewer tabs and more relevant ones. And you'll notice today we've actually just moved the My Class tab right to the next of dashboard, so you don't have to go to the right-hand side. So I'll be flicking between administration mode and teacher mode to allow us to do things. Main difference between, for Markbooks, the main difference between teacher mode and admin mode is Markbooks, you come in directly from here. You click on the Markbooks and you come directly into Markbooks from teacher mode. If you are an administrator and also doing Markbooks, you have to go to the achievement area and click on Markbooks. Okay. Right, I'm going to log it. It doesn't matter which way I come in. We still end up with the same screen. I have already set up Markbooks. If you have already set up Markbooks, you can come straight into this area and start putting data in. If you haven't set up Markbooks, you're just going to have to go with the example that I've got here at the moment to see. When you come into here, I'm a teacher of Room 2, so it automatically brings up Room 2's data. What we've recently done is I can go back and have a look at previous year's Markbooks. If I'm a Room 2 teacher and want to see my current students' previous year's data in Markbooks, I need to know two things. One, what room they were in. last year. So you would need to set up, click on 2018, and then you'd need to have the room that that student was in for 2018, so you can see their data. Right. The reason we have this is because each year the schools can change the names that they call the rooms, or they may not have a room 6 anymore, they may have, and so we have to look at that year's Markbooks, that year's classrooms as well. So, okay, moving on. At the moment, I want to look at Room 2's data. I have clicked on 2019, and I've only got Room 2 in here. If I'm more than just a teacher, I can see various Markbooks throughout. If I was a secondary school, I could, and had Markbook assessment coordinator, I could see all the Markbooks in the school. In most cases with primary schools, you are only going to have one Markbook, and that Markbook would be shared across all these rooms that are available. They'll see all the same columns, but they'll only see the students in room 8, for instance, here, room 7 here, room 6, etc. An important piece on the left-hand side, there's a filter, show past, show current, and show future. If by default it has only show current, but if you click on show past, you can see a student. Here's Joe Bloggs, who used to be in this class but isn't in here anymore. I forgot to enter his basic facts data for term 1. I can enter that now. He's actually left the school, but it doesn't matter. I can still enter the data in there, and I can save that. Now there's data showing up for him. I could also click on the show future, and the show future will show students who are going to be in my class. I wouldn't want to put data in for a student who's not yet in my class. It just allows you to see that there are going to be students in this class. Right. From there, the next important part to look at is the student columns. Now, in most cases, the people who have set up your Markbook will have said, I want to show student columns. And student columns are gender, ethnicity, ages of the 1st of January, year level, date of birth, their room number, and their NSN. If you don't want to see that information, you simply uncheck the box and it won't show. If you want to see some of that data, there's a little arrow button on the right-hand side, and you can, little arrow button on the left-hand side. I can't see that at the moment. You can actually select some of those cells. I'll show you that in a little bit later. Other areas, so if I don't want to see the student information, I just want to see the data I'm about to enter, I would unselect the student information. Also, I don't want to see every single column I've got. I only want to see certain columns. I can click on the down arrow, and I can see all the columns that have been configured for Markbooks. Easiest way to deal with this is unselect everything and just show basic facts for term 1, just show the key competencies for term 1, just show the beat test for term 1. Oops, other column. And then you've got certain fields that you'll see. If you then save that, every time you come into Markbooks from now on, or every class that you go into Markbooks from there on, you will only see that column configuration. You will only see the basic facts term 1. So I can switch between all the rooms and just say, show me room 8, show me those columns that I've got. Or if I go out of Markbook and come back in again, it's going to remember those 3 columns that I've asked for. It should have remembered all those columns that I asked for. Did I actually click on save? I'm sure I did. Right. Moving around the Markbook, if I have a large number of columns selected, I want to move up and down the Markbook. The easiest way to do that is on the right-hand side, you'll see a scroll bar, and I can scroll up and down in there. If I have my cursor sitting in the Markbook, I can use the down arrow or the up arrow. If my cursor is sitting in the on the Markbook columns, I can also use the right mouse button, the right arrow key, and the left arrow key, or I can scroll down to the bottom of the screen and scroll across until I get to the columns I want. Shortly, that scroll bar is actually going to be permanently hovering at the bottom of the screen, but at the moment you'll have to scroll down to the bottom of the screen to scroll across, or just use the click in the Markbook columns area and use the across keys. Having a Surface Pro, I can also swipe with my finger, which you won't be seeing yet. I won't be seeing there. If my cursor is sitting on the left-hand side in the students area, if I use my up and down arrow, all I'm doing is just going up and down the screen. I can't go across. I have to have my cursor sitting into the Markbook columns in order for me to do that. Right. If I want to orientate, if I want to sort fields, if I want to, for instance, sort my basic facts fields, I can click anywhere on the header of that column, and if I click on it, it will sort it into descending order. If I click on it again, it'll sort it into ascending order. Notice that these three students have no data, so they come before the students who had got data. Hannah Nelson didn't do very well in my basic facts term 1. So I can sort that field in any order. I can sort any of those fields in any order as long as there's data in there. If there's no data, it's just not going to show me anything relevant in that area. I can also sort their names into alphabetical order. If I click on it once, it sorts it ascending. Click on it twice, it sorts it descending. I just hadn't got to the last 3 students to put data in, so that would show that. Now, if you have got a Surface, so if you've got a laptop, you're going to be running out of real estate on your desktop quite quickly. There is a button down the bottom right-hand side which allows you to see the full screen. What it does is it removes the column selectors on the left-hand side. I can exit full screen, and I can now get back to doing filtering and changing rooms. But clicking on full screen allows me to see more column data if I need to. I'll exit the full screen again, and I'll show you how I was putting how you can put data in. So I'm going to unselect the columns. I'm going to put my key competency data in, and I'm just going to select key competency for term 1. So it's key competency thinking for term 1. I'm going to save that on the bottom, and I'm just going to put in 1 column's worth of data here. If I enter information, first time I click on it, I see not yet, sometimes, usually, and nearly always. One of the things that it's not up to you, it's up to the person who sets up the Markbooks, they should be thinking of is having words to select that start with different letters of the alphabet. You can see not always, and not yet, and nearly always, both start with the letter N. I'll show you why this is an issue. I'm going to select sometimes for this one. I'm going to click on sometimes, and now the tab is closed. If I press the tab key, I'm now on the next students, and I can just press the letter U, and usually appears. If I press tab again, I can press sometimes for the next one, sometimes for the next one. Now, I want to press nearly always, so I go N and it's got to not yet, and that's not what I wanted. So I'm going to press the N key again, and it rotates through all the N words. So the word starting with the N. If I press N a third time, it's not yet. Tab down, I pressed N twice. Tab down, I press N once. Tab down, I press sometimes. So wouldn't it be better if you had, rather than nearly always, have something that was slightly better than nearly, slightly better wording? So what I've done, here's one I prepared earlier. I'm going to select my key competency term 2. I'm going to switch off my key competency term 1. And for here, I've got not yet, sometimes, usually, and almost always. So I can now go N, S, U, A, U, and it's quick data entry. And as long as I save that data, the next time I come in, those values will already be showing. So a lot of people enter one piece of data at a time, and that's quite useful. And what I've done, I set up a reading for term 1, a writing for term 1, and a mathematics for term 1. And I'm going to unselect my key competencies. And while I'm here, I'm going to save that so it remembers it. So I have got my reading curriculum for term 1, writing curriculum for term 1, and maths curriculum for term 1. An alternative would be I want to set up a 1B, 1P, 1A. I've just identified the curriculum level and beginning, progressing, and advanced. And I can quickly go through and press 1 for here. If I tab the first time it closes the selection, I press 1 a second time. I don't want 1B, I want to press 1P. And then 1P for that student. This is the one time where you do want to have words starting with a number and then a value. It does mean you have to press buttons 2 or 3 times to get the value you want. This student's 3P and 3P again, and the 3 advanced, the 4 beginning for here. So this allows you to think, I'm thinking of Jenna. Where's Jenna? She's at 3B. And what's she for writing? For writing, she's at 4A. And for mathematics, she's at 1A. Right? I could type 1A. Oops, I put 1A, 1A, and 1A, and it will do that. Or if I just press 1 multiple times, it will scroll through those possibilities. Let me show you there. So if I press 2, it will scroll through the possibilities. Okay. Right. There are various types of fields in Markbooks. In this area, I have set up one for basic facts, and I used a number field. So the person setting up this Markbook column would have created a number field, and just to make life easy, and we can compare apples with apples, all our basic facts are in percentages. And so they said this column can have everything between 0 and 100. We haven't asked for decimal points in there, so as long as I type in a number between 1 and 100, or 0 and 100, it will allow it. If I type for this student 101, it's going to not allow that. If I put 99.9, oh, I have allowed for decimal points in here. Come on. It shouldn't be. It should just be whole numbers. It's up to you. You can set that out. Notice in here, I cannot put data for term 2 for basic facts. I changed the wording rather than basic facts to term 1, where I had to hover across. I just put it BF T2, BF term 3, and BF T4. This is so teachers can't accidentally type data in on the wrong term. It's term 1, so all my term 1 columns are set up and are active for me. Later on in term 2, the person in charge of Markbooks will likely lock the term 1 column and activate the term 2 column. If you do this, you'll still see the values that are sitting in those columns, but you can't edit them. A good thing for when you're reporting, once you've reported to parents or to the board, you want to lock those columns so you can't modify them. I've got a mid-year comment field in here for reading, and I can start typing what I want, and it says mid-year reading 300, and that means I can type 300 characters in here if I wanted to. At the moment, if I don't do anything other than just start typing, it allows me to do just that, and it only shows a few characters. If I double click in that cell, it brings up that student's cell, and I can put 300 characters of text in there. Once you're finished, you can apply that. It used to say save. It's not a save. It's just to apply that to the field. You still have to save down the bottom. Well, the alternative is if you've got this data in here and you want it to cancel, it will not save that new data that you put in. Right. So we've got lookups, we've got numbers, we've got comments, and we also have one called text. It's not a cell I use a data type I use very often because it's extremely limiting. It allows you to put letters, numbers. That's it. It doesn't allow you to put spaces in there, letters and numbers. So things like first, third, 1A, 2C. The reason I don't like selecting this type of data is because it allows for people to make mistakes. They could put 3Q in there, and if you're only allowing 1A, 1B, 2B, etc., and somebody puts in a Q, that really does cause all sorts of unusualnesses in there. Right. Again, getting back to the Markbook comments, I forgot to mention before, if I wanted to, if I have data in a Word document, I can copy that data and paste it into here. Now, it hasn't copied everything, because this column only allowed 200 characters. You'll notice that the last part of it, when he gives us a presentation, is not showing there because I'd already reached my 200 character limit. I would need to sit back and think about what I'm going to say in here. Unfortunately, what this means is teachers can actually put data somewhere else and then copy and paste it. Be much nicer if you could put it just into the one place. Right, if I apply that information, that's fine. You'll see also that these have spell checkers because it couldn't understand Tim. And your spell checker is, in this case, it's my Google spell checker. It's whatever your browser is. Problem is, if you have got words that you have allowed to, or you've added to the dictionary which are not real words, it's not going to know about it. It's not going to pick it up as a spelling mistake. The last two areas in this piece down here is export to CSV. Simple case of clicking on a CSV, and what it does is it downloaded all the columns I had selected and the data that was already in there. Then I can manipulate this data if I want to. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And the other one is save. Now, with save, what I recommend you do is put your data in, get out and do the things that you need to do. I wouldn't spend more than an hour in Markbook area. If you are going to be spending more than an hour in Markbook area, come out of the Markbook area, do something different for a minute, and then come back in. Just makes life a little bit easier. There have been issues around saving where a clock is not automatically resetting itself after an hour. So I would spend up to an hour in the program and then come out of it. Right. Last part. two last parts. The first one is, if the person responsible for Markbooks has allowed, then you can have create your own Markbook columns. There are a maximum of 30 columns that each teacher could have for each Markbook. So what I can do is, you'll lose unsaved data, but save my data. If you wish to create your own columns, you may certainly do so. If I add a column and I wanted to add a column which identified a beep test that I was doing, what type of column, what sort of data is it? These are the data values that we have set up in the test demo. You're likely not to have anywhere near that number. You might need to think about those sort of things. And I'm going to select a number field, one called Bruce's test, and then I'm just going to add that. So I'm just going to save that information. If I save that now and go back to the data entry, I should now have a column on the right-hand side. I didn't save it. Markbook configuration. Sorry about that. Add beep test, and it's I'll just make it that. Save that information. That's successfully been saved. Thank you. Now, if I go into the data entry, this is what a column that I have set up, and it shows beep test over here. The downside is there's only one person who can see this column, and that's myself. No, it's available to be selected over here, and it's available in my Markbook, but no other people can see that. The reason we don't have a large number is, if there's data being put into a Markbook column, think about it, the reason for it being in there. If it's the main reason will be to show progress, to show there's something happened at a particular time that you want to be able to share with other people. If you go to the person responsible for Markbook configuration, they'll say, actually, beep test is being done by room 3 and by room 5 and by room 7. How about create that column, and then you'll be able to share that data. Next year, you'll be able to see that information. Any Markbook column that you have created yourself specifically, you will not be able to share. So think about making that a school-wide one. And again, if none of those data types was sensible for you, then you might want to create your own data type. Here is the hard part. I want to create one called solar system, and I want it to be a lookup, and I want to add A, and I want to add B. I'm just thinking, I can't think off the top of my head of what I might want to add, so I can create a lookup, and if I save that, I can now in my Markbook configuration add another one called test for ABC, and I'm going to link it to, I don't know why I called it solar system, first thing that came into my mind. I save that. Now I go back to data entry. I now have a column called test for ABC, and these are the values A, B, and C. If I just wanted to show my test for A, B, and C, I can quickly put data in A, tab, B, C, C, A, B, A, C. I can get them in there. Be careful about what you're setting up in your custom columns. It's not, the Markbook is not designed to cater for things like to cater for absolutely every piece of information that you want to save. The reason for using Markbooks is to have data that you can use to analyze, that you can use to show progress, not store for absolutely everything. If it's got no relevance other than, yep, I just want to record something, put it onto a piece of paper. Right. The one last part I was going to quickly show you, I exported data out before. Here is a spreadsheet that we have created for schools to analyze curriculum data. So what we did is we extracted data out from, we entered reading for term 1, reading for term 4. If I wanted to show that, it says, no, that's not going to do it for me. No, I'll have to leave that. I've got in the presentation, you can see it. What we've done is we've extracted data out. It's because it's locked at the moment, and that you could analyse this data and show progress, things that could be entered in for the board of trustees or for caregivers information. A lot of the data columns that you have in the school, if you've set them up nice, if they've been set up by the administrator, some of these columns that they have may very well be columns that is entered for custom reports. So the idea would be that you put your data in here, and at the as soon as you put the data in, it automatically populates the customized report. We've got a number of schools who are doing those sorts of things and saving themselves a considerable amount of time rather than putting data somewhere and then going into the reports area and thinking about what is it that I needed to say. The data's already in. Right, that's a whistle-stop tour. It's just over half an hour. I'm now going to go and unmute you all, and if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to ask them now. I'll stay available for the next 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, so you're pretty well getting there.
Right. Well, thank you very much for attending. I hope you got something out of this.
Yeah.
I've launched a polling one. If you'd like to go and have a look, you're
class profile.
Yes.
Mine the class profile. We can use the Markbook. You know what I mean? So they won't be doing the class profile.
Okay. What I'll do is, if you have a question, feel free to ask. Feel free to ask away. Otherwise, I even have a poll going. Yeah, 10 of the 14 people said they would like assistance setting up Markbooks for 2019. The problem is I don't know who they were. Oh, because it doesn't say. Oh. So we'll just send out an email saying, those who did, would you please email? Oh, you got ready to go?
I'm so ready. So Douglas Bader intermediate, and literally all, well, at the moment, 95% of them don't even get it.
Hang on, let me.
But they'll still be on decodables, that goes on Markbooks.
So I would go off that schedule that Dave gave us.
Yeah, which I haven't got, which I'm going to.
Yeah, so it's on.
Yeah.
Because
But they're all,
It's on.
some, yeah, so even though some of them aren't six.
I'd like to learn how to do something like that. How you share your screen and saying you go here and do that's quite
Yeah, easy tool.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that
you imagine if you're
modeling.
modelling something that you want your
So maybe we need
class
to
to do.
take it out and we can.
Yeah.
You could do it like that.
Thanks,
Like
guys.
set up
Thank
a
you.
Good idea, good idea.
assessment, age assessment folder or something,
That's a
have
good
the
idea.
schedule there under curriculum.
Yep, didn't even think of that. That's a good
what's
idea.
that called?
The schedule,
Yeah.
we need to put it somewhere
We
where
do,
everyone
we
can
can
access it.
an obvious
So-
place.
In curriculum makes sense to me. You set up a folder that says assessment.
You could put in school organisation. Because there's people going for staff admin all the time and staff information.
Yeah,